In an industry where visibility is everything, silence is often interpreted as absence. Yet in the case of Jungkook of BTS, silence has never meant disappearance. Throughout late 2024 and into 2025, Jungkook's public appearances became limited due to mandatory military service. There were no new music videos, no concert stages, and no global promotions. And still, his name continued to appear consistently across charts, search rankings, media headlines, and fan-driven platforms worldwide. This phenomenon raises a simple but powerful question. Why does the world never stop waiting for Jungkook? This article explores that question not through speculation or emotional exaggeration, but through verifiable patterns, documented industry responses, and observable global behavior. It is a factual chronicle of how Jungkook maintained, and in some cases expanded, his global influence even during periods of reduced activity. In the global music industry, relevance is often tied to constant output. Artists release singles, attend events, appear on television, and maintain a steady stream of content to stay visible. Jungkook's trajectory has been different. During periods when he was not actively promoting, his name remained among the most searched K-pop artists on platforms such as YouTube and Google. Industry observers noted that his digital footprint showed remarkable stability, rather than the sharp rise and fall pattern common to many pop acts. This sustained attention was not driven by controversy or sensational headlines. Instead, it was driven by continued engagement with his existing work. Songs from his solo album Golden continued to record millions of daily streams globally, long after their initial release cycle. This behavior indicates not passive nostalgia, but active, repeated consumption by listeners. From a data perspective, this matters. Streaming longevity is one of the clearest indicators of long-term artist relevance. Mandatory military service often creates uncertainty for South Korean artists. History shows that extended hiatuses can weaken public momentum. However, Jungkook's military period defied that pattern. Rather than fading from public awareness, Jungkook's image evolved. Media coverage during this time emphasized maturity, discipline, and growth. Official photos and brief updates sparked global discussion, not because of marketing tactics, but because of pre-existing emotional investment from audiences. Importantly, there were no aggressive promotional strategies attached to his military presence. The attention remained organic. This is significant because it demonstrates that Jungkook's relevance is not dependent on constant exposure, but on accumulated trust and recognition built over years. One of the most objective ways to measure an artist's impact is through long-term listening behavior. BY 2025, Jungkook's solo tracks had entered a rare category, songs that continued to perform strongly well beyond their promotional life cycle. Music analysts have pointed out that this level of sustained streaming is typically associated with artists who cross genre and demographic boundaries. Jungkook's listeners are not limited to one age group or region. His audience spans Asia, North America, Europe, Latin America, and the Middle East. This global consistency explains why platforms continue to algorithmically recommend his music. Even during inactive periods, in practical terms, the world keeps waiting for Jungkook because it never stopped listening to him. Another factor contributing to ongoing anticipation is how Jungkook is discussed in international media. Unlike emerging artists who rely on frequent press cycles, Jungkook's name appears in analytical contexts, industry reviews, market impact reports, and cultural commentary. He is often cited as a benchmark for post-military career sustainability, a case study in global fan engagement, an example of how K-pop artists can maintain relevance without oversaturation. This type of coverage reinforces credibility. It positions Jungkook not just as a celebrity, but as a reference point within the industry. As a result, anticipation for his return is framed not as curiosity, but as expectation. One of the clearest indicators of Jungkook's enduring presence is fan behavior. On platforms such as Weverse, YouTube, and X, formerly Twitter, Jungkook-related content consistently generates high engagement. Even when there are no new updates, fan discussions focus not only on appearances, but on vocal technique, analysis, performance breakdowns, lyric interpretations, artistic growth over time. This depth of engagement suggests that Jungkook is perceived less as a fleeting idol and more as an evolving artist whose work invites continued exploration. Waiting. in this context, is not passive. It is participatory. Industry professionals frequently cite Jungkook's technical skill as a core reason for his longevity. His vocal range, stability in live performances, and adaptability across genres have been consistently recognized by producers and critics alike. These qualities matter because they translate across trends. While musical styles evolve, technical excellence remains relevant. As a result, Jungkook's potential future projects are anticipated not because of mystery, but because of proven capability. Another factor often mentioned in industry analysis is Jungkook's public authenticity. Despite global fame, his communication style, especially during live broadcasts, has remained direct and unfiltered. This consistency builds trust, which in turn sustains long-term attention. Audiences tend to wait for artists they believe in, not just those they admire. By late 2025, discussions around Jungkook's post-military activities intensified. Importantly, these discussions were not driven by leaks or sensationalism. They were driven by precedent. Historically, Jungkook's returns, whether through group activities or solo releases, have been accompanied by measurable global impact. This pattern creates expectation grounded in experience. Waiting, in this case, is rational. Jungkook's influence extends into fashion, lifestyle, and digital culture. His choices often trigger immediate global response, even without endorsement announcements. This cross-industry relevance reinforces his presence during inactive periods. The world waits not just for new music, but for cultural signals. In the modern music industry, anticipation itself has measurable value. Jungkook represents a rare case where absence does not weaken demand, but concentrates it. Streaming platforms, advertisers, and media outlets observe user behavior closely. During Jungkook's inactive periods, engagement metrics around his name do not decline significantly. Instead, they stabilize at a level most active artists never reach. This sustained attention creates what analysts refer to as latent demand, an audience already prepared to respond the moment new activity begins. From an economic standpoint, this makes Jungkook's eventual returns uniquely impactful. Waiting, in this sense, becomes a market condition rather than an emotional reaction. Unlike earlier generations of pop stars, Jungkook exists in a digital ecosystem where content never truly disappears. His performances, interviews, and music remain accessible across platforms, allowing new audiences to discover him continuously. This phenomenon explains why Jungkook continues to gain new listeners even during hiatus periods. Algorithms reward consistency and engagement, not frequency of release alone. As a result, Jungkook's digital presence functions as a permanent archive, one that continues to attract attention without requiring constant updates. One of the most notable aspects of Jungkook's influence is his appeal across age groups. Industry surveys and platform analytics show that his audience includes teen listeners discovering K-pop for the first time, young adults who grew up alongside BTS, older listeners drawn by vocal quality and genre diversity. This broad demographic reach explains why anticipation surrounding Jungkook feels global rather than niche. Each group waits for different reasons, but all remain engaged. In professional discussions, Jungkook is frequently referenced as a standard rather than a comparison. Producers mention his vocal adaptability, performers reference his stage control, marketing analysts point to his brand stability. When an artist becomes a reference point, their future work is anticipated not as entertainment alone, but as a benchmark-setting event. Trust is one of the most undervalued assets in entertainment. Audiences trust Jungkook to deliver quality because past experience supports that belief. This trust reduces skepticism and increases patience. People wait longer for artists they trust. This psychological factor explains why even long gaps do not weaken anticipation around Jungkook's activities. Interestingly, Jungkook's limited media presence has created space for deeper narratives rather than shallow headlines. Without constant exposure, discussions shift from appearance-based commentary to long-term evaluation of artistry and impact. This elevates the tone of public discourse around him. Silence, in this case, becomes a canvas rather than a void. Jungkook's individual anticipation cannot be separated from BTS's collective legacy. BTS established a global framework of trust, artistic credibility, and cultural significance. Jungkook benefits from this foundation while simultaneously reinforcing it through solo achievements. The world waits for Jungkook not only as an individual artist, but as a representative of a group that reshaped global pop culture. Military service reinforced public perception of Jungkook as disciplined and grounded. Media coverage during this period emphasized responsibility and growth rather than interruption. This narrative strengthened his image rather than pausing it. Professionalism sustains anticipation by signaling reliability. In a time of rapid content consumption and shortened attention spans, Jungkook's sustained relevance challenges industry norms. His case suggests that depth, consistency, and authenticity can outperform constant output. This lesson resonates across creative industries beyond music. Outside South Korea, Jungkook is often perceived less as a K-pop idol and more as a global pop artist. International media coverage emphasizes universality rather than genre labels. This framing broadens his audience and reinforces long-term interest. Waiting becomes global because identification is global. Charts, rankings, and engagement metrics form a narrative of their own. Rather than peaking sharply and declining, Jungkook's data patterns show sustained plateaus, an indicator of durable relevance. Numbers do not tell stories emotionally, but they do confirm them objectively. As Jungkook matures, so does his audience. This mutual growth creates alignment between artist output and listener expectations. Anticipation becomes more thoughtful, less impulsive. Mature audiences are willing to wait. Overexposure often leads to fatigue. Jungkook's limited public appearances prevent this effect. Scarcity enhances value when paired with trust and quality. In Jungkook's case, absence amplifies impact rather than diminishing it. Public awareness of Jungkook's involvement in creative processes increases respect for his artistry. Audiences wait not just for content, but for expression shaped by intention rather than obligation. The Global Army Network sustains attention organically. Fan-driven content, translations, analyses, and archival projects ensure Jungkook remains present across platforms without official promotion. This decentralized support system is rare and powerful. Time itself has become part of Jungkook's story. Each period of waiting adds weight to the next appearance. This cumulative anticipation strengthens impact rather than diluting it. Jungkook exists within collective cultural memory. Even casual listeners recognize his voice, image, and presence. This familiarity lowers re-entry barriers for future projects. By late 2025, anticipation around Jungkook's next steps is not fueled by leaks or hype, but by expectation grounded in history. Audiences wait because past returns have delivered measurable impact. Waiting, in Jungkook's case, is not passive longing. It is acknowledgement. Jungkook's case illustrates a shift in how global audiences engage with artists, valuing longevity, authenticity, and consistency over constant novelty. The world never stops waiting for Jungkook because waiting itself has become part of his cultural presence, not because he is absent, but because he has proven again and again that when he returns, the moment matters. Waiting is not uncertainty. Waiting is recognition. By the end of 2025, the act of waiting for Jungkook had evolved into something larger than individual anticipation. It had become a global phenomenon, observable across cultures, languages, and industries. In most cases, waiting for an artist is driven by uncertainty, questions about relevance, direction, or survival in a fast-changing market. In Jungkook's case, waiting exists for the opposite reason. It is driven by certainty. Audiences are not asking if Jungkook will matter again. They are asking how his next chapter will redefine the moment. This distinction is crucial. It explains why discussions surrounding Jungkook do not fade during quiet periods, but instead deepen. Analysts debate artistic direction. Fans revisit past performances with renewed perspective. Media outlets frame his future not as a comeback attempt, but as a continuation of an established trajectory. Waiting here is not a pause, it is a build-up. What makes this phenomenon especially notable is its scale. Jungkook's anticipation is not confined to traditional fan communities. It extends into music industry strategy discussions, global pop culture commentary, fashion and lifestyle trend analysis, digital platform behavior studies. In other words, Jungkook's presence persists even in conversations where his name is not the headline, but the reference point. This level of embedded relevance is rare. It suggests that Jungkook has crossed the threshold from celebrity to cultural constant. Another defining element of this phenomenon is restraint. Neither Jungkook nor his team has relied on excessive pre-announcements or hype-driven narratives. The absence of constant updates has allowed public expectation to grow organically, guided by past performance rather than manufactured momentum. From a historical perspective, artists who reach this stage often experience a shift in how their careers are measured. Success is no longer defined by chart peaks alone, but by impact per appearance. Every moment becomes weighted. Every release becomes contextual. Jungkook has entered this phase with unusual stability. Observers note that even hypothetical discussions about his future projects generate engagement levels comparable to active promotional campaigns by other artists. This reinforces a central truth. Jungkook's relevance is no longer conditional on activity. He occupies a permanent space in the global imagination. Waiting, therefore, is not driven by fear of loss, but by expectation of significance. Audiences believe that when Jungkook chooses to speak, through music, performance, or presence, it will be intentional, considered, and reflective of growth. This belief transforms waiting into trust, and trust, once established at a global scale, is one of the most powerful currencies in entertainment. As the industry moves forward into an era defined by rapid consumption and constant visibility, Jungkook stands as a counterexample. His journey demonstrates that endurance can outperform immediacy, and that silence, when supported by credibility, can be louder than noise. The world continues to wait for Jungkook not because it lacks content, but because it recognizes meaning. In that sense, waiting is no longer about timed. It is about value.